welcome everyone. I'm going to get you to introduce yourselves, but as you do so, we'd love to hear what your favourite video ad is. And as I mentioned on the call, I love nostalgic ones, but if you also have one of the modern era of marketing, that would give you bonus points. Sarah, should we start with you?
Hello, g'day everyone. I'm Sarah Gallen. I work at Tourism Australia. I'm the General Manager of Brand, Campaigns and Media there. What that means really is we do all the sort of paid storytelling of Australia into our 15 markets. So all the big campaigns you may have seen come out from us, whether that's Come and Say G'day with Ruby the Roo or Holiday Here This Year with Hamish and Zoe, that would come from my team. So this is a bit of a biased one, obviously. Anyway, we all get to pick what our favourite is. And also just Cannes was a couple of weeks ago. I'm always so impressed with the calibre of what ends up on the global stage from here in Australia. But I think the Sydney Opera House 50-year video, the sort of celebration of this sort of brand code for us as well. It's one of our top 3 brand codes when we're thinking about Australia, when people are thinking about Australia overseas. But the incredible creativity and storytelling from Tim Minchin, the craft that Kim Garrick, who we've worked with before actually, who is the director, is just, I think I'm probably a million of their views because I just think it was so incredible and such a beautiful way for us all to be so proud of this sort of iconic experience and part of sort of the Sydney fabric. So definitely, and well done. I guess they got up at Cannes with a Grand Prix as well. So
yeah, it was so lovely. I'm the other million of those views, so I love it as well, and nearly cry every time. So, but it was so lovely to be reminded. I think we moved so quickly. Yeah. Like I'd already put that piece of content ad, beautiful storytelling in the back of my mind to have it revisited. Yeah. Which I think says a lot for a lot of brands. Bring back some of the really good work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are enduring things, aren't there? And nostalgia plays a big key.
Thank you, Sarah. Hisham, welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Hisham Ennis. I started off my career as a pharmacist, and then I wasn't going to mention that, but Sarah said I should really mention that. So I'm a pharmacist, still registered. And and then I went into the world of digital marketing, which is obviously a natural progression as careers. And then I was working in multiple places in programmatic, social, etc. And now I went back into the pharmaceutical world, working at Pfizer as an omni-channel digital manager. And my favorite ad, probably not as beautiful as Opera House ad, would be the no label Coca-Cola ad. I'm not sure if anyone has seen it. It's really like thought-provoking about how we view people in the first 7 seconds and what really the person is behind. So no label Coca-Cola, if anyone hasn't watched it, highly recommend it.
Thank you. I feel like we need another revenue stream with you just writing scripts after the event.
Too many regulations.
Thank you, Sean. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Kay. I'm going to talk to you, mate, after this. But so my name's Mark Echo. I'm the Executive Manager of Channel Performance Marketing and Effectiveness at IAG. I've been there for the last 16 months, so quite fresh. But essentially my role is to ensure that we've got a fully connected ecosystem that we can target our customer throughout the entirety of the journey. We've got about 8 journeys that we activate against, whether it's a new business journey, a claims, a complaints journey, etc. And video plays an important role in some of those journeys with different objectives. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about it even more. But my favourite video ad, I think is probably controversially, maybe not so, but it's probably the New South Wales government towards zero ad, because we're going to talk about metrics and measurement and things like that, and really their end goal for that entire campaign and that piece of film that they've created is literally getting less, or saving lives, right? Getting towards 0 deaths on our New South Wales roads. So, we can talk about all the reach and measurement you want, but if that metric does not move, then that campaign is seen as a failure. So it's really about the consumer behaviour change, and part of IAG and in insurance, that's what we're trying to do as well, is change consumers' behaviour and nudge them into a policy and all that other kind of stuff to protect their most valuable asset. So that for me, because it's so powerful, it's such an easy comprehension takeaway, but really the key KPI for them is to save lives and reduce risk on the road. So it's one of the reasons
why. So hard to move those metrics. So great call, Mark. Jade, welcome.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Jade, the head of marketing at V2 Food. We're the leading plant protein company here in Australia. We're Australia made and owned. It's very proud to work for a company where it's in such a global market in plant-based. And in terms of my favourite ad, I've debated a few of these this morning, but having been there twice in the last month, I think I'm going to go for Tourism Taz with Come Down for Air. I think it was so beautifully done, and I love going to Taz in the winter. I'm a big ocean swimmer, and yes, I did get in the ocean at this time of the year without a wetsuit, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So that would have to be my favourite.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful ads. So you've all come from very different businesses with very different objectives, rules. So I'm really interested to hear on how you use video advertising in your business, along with obviously your other marketing and advertising. So you've probably got the biggest budget out of the crew here. You might not think so. No budget's ever big enough. How are you using video advertising currently, and what's changed, I guess, too?
Yeah. So a bit of background to set it up. So TA is really in service of the tourism industry. So we're all about trying to sort of grow demand for them. So when we think about that and creating that demand for us in the marketing team, it's around winning in consideration. So making sure that we are one of the 2 to 3 countries that make it on that list, because if you don't make it on that list, they're definitely not coming. So for us, we do have a screens first approach. We use a multitude of sort of video assets. Like, we're pretty lucky we've got a great product here in Australia, and moving pictures of that even better. But we use a multitude, and we sort of think about it in sort of 3 ways, sort of from that TV sort of VOD point of view, where people are more forced to watch, that skippable and scrollable area where we want them to watch more. And of course, from a native point of view, so all that editorial video, our organic social channels that we sort of amplify as well. So all of that is to try and build that sort of brand bias, build that familiarity, and get on that sort of consideration list. So a whole host of video types of assets, channels and formats.
And how much do you have to, because you're dealing with a myriad of different markets who all think differently.
Yes.
All have different budgets. Like, how much do you have to change that video? I mean, I guess maybe the overarching strategy is the same. How much tweaking do you have to do per market?
Yeah, of course. Like we've got commonalities in our goals and our objectives, but of course we're nuancing for what best fits the market. Our philosophy, which we'll get into maybe a bit later around attention, is unchanging. So, but yes, of course, we do build bespoke and custom for each of the markets, but we keep those foundations really clear with all of them. We think about creative power and quality, we think about our investment, and we think about that media quality, which is for us attention. So that remains the same, but be executed differently.
Biggest competitors? Who are we fighting against for those dollars? Other markets?
That's a really good question. A lot of markets are doing really great work out there as well, which it's a really hot time for us. But whether it's sort of the rise of some of our Middle Eastern friends, whether it's amazing Japan, which probably most people in this room have been to, let's be honest, there is some great competition. But also that makes us want to sort of strive and push our bar up even higher.
And it lifts the creative so high.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Mark, I'm going to go to you next. IAG, so you've been there a while, you're ex-agency, so you understand how everything works. How are you using, I guess, screens within IAG?
Yeah, I'll build on Sarah's point. So as part of the IAG sort of holdco, we've got 8 other brands, NRMA being probably one of the biggest consumer-facing brands. NRMA is truly national as of this year, with the exclusion of Victoria. So to Sarah's point, just to build on that, the market and the brand presence in that market is completely different. In New South Wales, we've been servicing New South Wales customers for 99 years, so we are synonymous with New South Wales. We've got Coca-Cola style awareness and consideration levels in New South Wales. In SAWA, where we've just taken over the SGI businesses, so SGIO and SGIC. So our brand is only 12 months old. So we are really sort of on that up and coming. And in Queensland, we've been there for 20 years, but they're Maroon state, they're a Suncorp state. So being there, our brand there's just different nuances in how our brand is sort of perceived in those markets, which means it's a very big difference and nuanced difference by state on how we use video to really activate those journeys and the traditional marketing funnels, etc. To the point on attention as well, it's something that we play around with a lot. So we've been on the attention train for pre my time for 5 years. And we're really playing with the nuances by state on passive and active attention. In New South, let me just start with active attention is very expensive to buy. That's just what it is. Premium placements, I'd love to have those budgets to buy only that all the time, and to make sure that campaigns lead with that is one thing that I do, and make sure that our always on piece, people are dipping in and out of the insurance category at any time. It's very hard to try to use signal to pinpoint when someone's dipping into our category, and when they convert, there's really only a 6-day window that I have to convert them. So we're playing with the balance on, states like New South Wales, we could probably afford to have more passive attention type of video placements, which is cheaper for us to buy and helps nudge the consumer along the journey that we want to put them on. But things like I mentioned, SAWA, we're a new brand, we've only really cracked into that market, they're only just seeing NRMA Blue there. Active attention is absolutely what we need to have, and bold placement so they understand and comprehend what we do as an insurance brand and how we can service those local communities. So very nuanced by state for us. Foundations are the same, but we sort of play around with whether it's active and passive attentions, whether it's the way that we flight, etc., just to make sure that we're building top of mind, getting ourselves considered on that consideration set, but more importantly, making sure that we're salient. So when someone does tip into the insurance category, we're one of the brands that they're considering. So.
Yeah, and just to build on that from an attention point of view, we're similar, Mark. So we've been sort of a couple of years really sort of moving from raw reach, sort of efficient buying reach to sort of that effective play. And we've been working with our media partner as well to sort of create our own TA CPM. So looking at different strategic inputs, whether it be ROI analysis or our traveller journey, so the influential channels across the journey to create this. And like Mark said, you're then able to keep your foundations, and we know what our comms jobs to be done, which are different by market, but then we can sort of really sort of hone in on how we can drive the most attentive media plans to deliver on those goals.
Okay, I'm going to come back to both of you on how you experiment and change in different areas, because I think that's a really interesting one when you haven't got those benchmarks sometimes. Jade, you're at a different point of, I guess, building awareness, building a brand. How are you using, I guess, that ad investment for success?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd actually like to ask the audience a question first, if that's okay. I'd love it if everyone could put their hand up here who's had a beef burger. And I'd love it if you keep your hand up if you've had a meat alternative burger. Yeah, actually quite a lot. I thought it would be a lot less than that. So I think our role at V2 is we're 5 years young. So compared to some of the lovely people I'm sat here to, we're very early in our growth journey, and we're trying to lead from the front. So we're creating a category and trying to brand build at a time in a market that is moving extremely fast. And if we're not keeping up with the consumer, then we're definitely not doing our job. They're moving a lot faster than us, and I think we're actually moving quite quickly. But we used video last year to kind of really break down 2 category barriers for us, which was around taste and show me it's normal. Normalize this category for me. We have a lot of bad press about being fake meat, meat alternative. I hate this terminology. One of the first things we did was get rid of all of that. We're now positive about what we are, which is plant protein, and we're positive about the health and the planetary benefits that we bring. We did do what I would call a shortcut and recruited a great brand ambassador for us, which was Miguel Maestre, who comes with a lot of shelf credentials. I don't know if anyone in this room knows who he is, but he's fun, he's energetic, he brought a lot of immediate personality to our brand. And what we care about internally is displacing 1 meal of beef every chance we get. And our campaign originated with Update Your Plate. So we're just asking you to update 1 meal a week to be meat-free, and we use video to really drive that home. So we use it on TV to obviously get that mass reach. Obviously, I'm trying to change all of Australia's meat-eating habits, but I'm also honing in on the audiences that really do live from the forefront, which are Gen Z and millennials, They're obviously not the biggest grocery contributor to spend right now, but they will be by 2030. And so taking the business on that journey of, you might not see a return from the advertising we're doing today, but I promise it's going to pay off in 3 to 5 years when they become 50% of grocery spend. And we know Gen Z's influence the Gen X grocery basket, which are the largest too. So having just some of those insights to drive that. And we know that Gen X love Miguel, so that was also another piece. So yeah, we used lots of videos across our portfolio, our top 3 products, the burgers, mince and schnitzel, showed how it looked exactly like the meat equivalent, how it can go in all your tasty meals. And we did TV, we did YouTube, we did TikTok. We probably didn't create creative for the platform. We're probably not there yet. I have the smallest budget here, as you probably gathered. So it was about making the most use of the assets that I have in the channels that get me the best reach and return for who I was targeting.
Fantastic. We're going to come back to that 3 to 5 year story and see if you've cracked that narrative with the CFO.
I'm only 18 months in.
Hisham, I left you to last because you have such an interesting challenge with Pfizer. You've got sort of a B2B type audience as well as a consumer awareness piece. You've probably got, I don't know, between you and Mark, regulation sort of, restricting what you can do. How are you using video, advertising, storytelling for your business?
Yes, definitely. Regulation is a huge part of what pharmaceutical companies. And just like Jade, I wanted to get a just understanding of how many people here have worked in a pharmaceutical company, basically in a prescription-based marketing. So how many, putting a prescription, oh, that's all right. Like 4 out of, I think, 200 people, that's all right, 5%. So I think it's a good idea to give a bit of background of how a pharmaceutical world works when it comes to marketing. First and foremost, it is the most regulated place I've ever worked in. It is like things not even including the creative and the images. I'm talking about each and every word is checked by a whole team. And that includes medical team, legal team, my brand managers, etc. So for example, if I say this is the best medication to treat your diabetes, that will get rejected straight away because I use the word best. So medical team will come back to, you can't use the word best. We don't use competitive language here. You just say this is the medicine for diabetes, so to treat diabetes. So I go back and say, okay, this is a medicine to treat diabetes. It gets rejected again because I will use the word treat. It's not treatment, it's management. There's a very synonymous, but it gets rejected. So I said, okay, this medication manages the people who are getting diabetes, who have diabetes. It gets rejected again because it's not diabetes, it's actually the side effects of hypoglycemia or something completely, like something irrelevant to what diabetes. So every single word is checked by a team, a full-time employee. The second thing is the attribution modeling. I know there are some people from Google that worked a lot in attribution. If you guys can crack this, I'll love you for life. It's extremely hard to get attribution when it comes to pharmaceutical. And the reason being is so you have your emails sent out, your videos, your sales rep goes out in the market, the summits that happen like these ones. And the healthcare professional may see, or the doctor may see a patient in the next 6-7 days, or it might be in the next 6-7 months. And to link that to your activity is virtually impossible. So far for me, like, if someone can help me, I'll love you. And so that is a huge, I would say, learning curve for myself and a huge understanding. Now, coming back to your formats, so as you can understand when it comes to regulations, so we have 2 different audiences, I would say. One is the general public, the likes of you, and these videos can be shared to everyone. However, it has to be very disease specific. So it's something about diabetes, what it is, how it can be a patient talking about their own experience. It can be a doctor explaining what it is. And no way in that whole video you can mention the word of the company. You can't mention the drug name. You can't mention anything to do with your branding. So it's a very generic information about the disease state. And secondly, the one we do use videos for is like the healthcare professionals. And as a healthcare professionals, the regulations are very different when it comes to America, when it comes to Australia. We can't use the same video in a public domain. So there's no such thing as YouTube, social, so forth. We get a video, we send it directly to that doctor or the healthcare professional. And that is through an email, it can be through a login, through a portal, it can be through summits, but has to go as far from our end as a pharmaceutical company, we have to ensure it goes to the healthcare professional for that video. It just cannot go to the public. They can do whatever they want, they can share, but for our end, it has to be the healthcare professional. So that limits us significantly. So it has to be a portal that people log in. It has to be an email via. It might be something that they request us and we send them. So it's not something that's publicly available.
Thanks for reminding me how I don't miss those days.
Also, what are your SLAs to feedback loops? Wow.
So let's stick with, I guess, metrics and how, how do you...
So SLA, like I did an email, it was my initial call, I just started 6 months ago. It took me 2 weeks to get one email done as an approval. So, and that was going back and forth. It also was a learning curve. Now it takes me around 7 business days, which is a great improvement. That was my SLAs, and the metrics-wise is really it's very similar, but it's more about engagement. How many people are really clicking the video? How many people are watching? Attribution and measurement. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, and I mean, huge global company, and I know regulation is different in every market, but like, do you have, I guess, frustrated peers in every market around the world that you share success stories with?
Yes, we do have frustrated peers, but I would say the regulation in Australia are pretty good compared to what I've heard in US, where a lot of medications are promoted directly to public. And as a pharmacist, I'm completely against that. And obviously, the frustrations are there, but it's very different. So we can't even use the same creatives from that end to our end. So some people are more lenient, some countries like us. And also Australia and New Zealand are different. So you can't use the same creative from Australia to New Zealand.
Okay, all right. Everyone's rethinking any job in pharmaceutical right now. You've all talked, I guess, a little bit around how you're using it. We've started to talk around particularly attention. You saw in Nat's research the use of video for full funnel. Now we're seeing, huge range of different formats. The long short piece, is obviously a huge conversation. Jade, I was picking up on your comment around that, preparing for future success. How are you able to sell that in, measure it? What are you basing the proof points on, or is it just trust me?
No, I definitely love data, so anyone that's me can attest to that. So I think it is about trying to showcase the short and long. And Mark and I were having a conversation a minute ago about marketing mix modelling. Like, we don't have the budget to be able to do that, so we have to try and proof out ways internally to kind of show the success. So every quarter I'll go to the board and I'll show that our campaigns have delivered sales uplifts if I have that to proof out. I'll use a lot of brand awareness metrics. So when we did our first campaign, we actually did a trial in Adelaide first, which represented 10% of our sales, gave it a bit of decent spend, and then showed how we went from being 6th in brand awareness to number 1 in that state, just from that small media burst. And then that kind of enabled us to go live nationally. And then I was able to show from the trial state the actual double impact of investment on Adelaide, because even in that national, Adelaide then performed even better. So it's about showing kind of who we're targeting and the growth that segmentation is going to have over time, but then our kind of short-term delivery. So I think I proved out that we got 80% sales uplift in that 4-week period that we were on air, and then post 4 weeks I had a 20% uplift, which was way more than any in-store promotions or any other in-store activation that we'd done. Our issue that I always keep going back to the board is we don't have enough spend to be able to be sort of always on or do more than one big campaign a year, and that sort of hinders our growth.
So the Adelaide one was linear TV, or did you have digital video in the mix?
Oh yeah, we did have digital video, yeah. So we used TV, we had digital out of home, and we also had YouTube and TikTok. Yeah.
Right.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, so we've just bought 2 direct-to-consumer businesses, so in the ready meal space, which is really exciting. We just acquired them 6 months ago. They are a total e-com business, and they have not historically used video. So we're spending 92% of our budget on static social ads, and so now we're on a whole new journey to say, like, we need way more creative, we need to move into brand building territory, and we can't keep kind of focusing on CACs and CPAs. Like, we've got to move the thinking. So we're back to building the journey again with the board, but hopefully from the V2 food example, it might be a little bit easier this time.
Mark, that testing in Adelaide must make you happy. I know IAG's been a big fan of experimentation for many, many years. Is that still how you're testing and sort of proving to your management?
We've been on a big journey for testing and proving out effectiveness within my team and wider the marketing team in IAG. We've trialled MMMs a while ago. It did what it needed to at the time. We're really focused in on incrementality testing now across all of our channels, across all of our states, at an SA1 or an LGA level. So, we've got access to a lot of data, but essentially what we've done is graphed all of Australia, break down lookalike models to make sure that there's no biases in the breakdowns of different locations. And we literally look at holdouts. So whether it's a holdout or a creative test, holdout we can test media opportunities, creative testing if we're running more long style comms, so if it's more emotional brand building versus rational product proof points or specific offers. We look at what the incrementality is, looking at specific washes like that. So geo lifts, sales uplifts, etc., is how we've been testing incrementality, and we're basically finding pockets in the year that we can start. Whether it's testing specific channels or formats.
Yeah, I was just about to ask with that, like that sort of model of on and off, and you really need so much control around what's going on. Does that limit? Maybe that's not the right word, but does that make you concentrate your spend on fewer channels? Like, fragmentation would be hard, wouldn't it?
Yeah, not in this market, to be fair. I'm sorry, the fragmentation is very hard, but one of the barriers that I faced was we don't want to turn things off for the sake of a test to try to prove things out. I mean, we still got ambitions to grow, in a market where zero insurance is becoming a trend, right? People are saying, I don't need home and contents insurance because I haven't used it, but I've been paying for it for 10 years. So, me then saying, well, we're going to turn off, important channels like digital video and etc. That's not going to fly either. So it's really I think one of the biggest things is just being really disciplined on what we're testing, how we're testing, and how long we need to test it to make sure that we're getting the stat SIGs results that we can then go back to, especially our CFO, because that's where ultimately, when things get tight, we want to make sure that we're proving our incrementality and not just being a cost line on the P&L. So, it's a big journey that we've been on. I think the transition of brands in SAWA for us specifically has also helped what brand building does look like and how we can really supercharge that and ramp that up to New South Wales styles brand attributes. So we're really getting tight on that. So channel testing, my team, and creative testing within my wider team is absolutely what we're focused on and really honing and dialing in. So.
Yeah, and I won't go into the similar things that we do at TA, but just to sort of build on the creative testing, for us, creativity and creative is a multiplier for us. We talked about the hot competition out there who are doing greater work with, bigger budgets. So creative is a really big one. And we have partnered historically, we use a multitude of people, but with System 1 to do creative testing as well, to really see that the work works as well, as much as possible, which is a great thing, and we test it, before we launch, and we've also tested it a year later as well, just to make sure that we are still seeing those scores, because, all marketers probably get bored of things before consumers do, and we know that the importance of that continuity and that consistency. So also creative for me is a really big area, because it can be a multiplier for a lot of people.
On your retention journey, which is great to hear, you sort of having that consumer, like it's the consumer story, right? That consumer engagement. Are you matching and mixing that with other metrics? Is it?
I mean, like everyone here, we have a full measurement framework, but of course we look at a whole range of campaign metrics, which can be sort of leading indicators for us that things are working. We look at brand, and we of course look at arrivals and expenditure of people coming here. And attention is, it's more and more, everyone's sort of talking in this way, but the measurement of it in real terms is still coming. And obviously, Dr. Karen Nielsen-Fields and all the amazing work that Amplified Intelligence does and others is really helping in this space. But we do a lot of geo-testing as well. where, again, we don't switch off anything, but we will, have different strategies in different regions in our markets, a Busan to a Seoul or parts of America, to really sort of eke out that sort of those learnings on what is working. But more to come in this space.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think, dare we say AI is going to solve everything, but, having all these different metrics come together and actually work out what the drivers are, it's I'm very excited. Before we go on to sort of our last question, before we might see if there's any questions that have come through from Slido, Hisham, I almost don't know what to ask you because it sounds so tough, but what are the high five moments? So, you've talked about, I guess, the barriers to getting communications out there. What are those success metrics, or can you, without having that attribution piece, what does good look like?
So part of our attribution is still there. So one of the things about the pharmaceutical companies, the healthcare industry, is that our audience is already very niche. So there are approximately 600,000 healthcare professionals in Australia. That includes everyone from pharmacists to nurses to doctors. And less than 70,000 are your medical doctors and specialists. And these are the key target audience that actually write your prescription. So one of the things that we have to look at is not only that less than 70,000, so there's no such thing as, data matching or first party data, but even within that, if you have a diabetic medication, I'll go back to diabetes every time, is that you have approximately 1,000 to 1,200 endocrinologists. So getting a measurement out of them is obviously a very complex thing. However, instead of working as a funnel strategy and bringing them to a funnel, what we do is really pivot the content to be a funnel. So when you have a new drug launch or a new drug that comes into market, we look at the videos that go out are very generic about what it is, what are the side effects, this is what happens if a patient comes in with these symptoms, this is what you give. And the key thing really here is that you need to give information and can't force information. So what that means is it really cuts down on our creative and design budget because it's literally basic information. You can't have a very nice techno music and a lot of moving parts. It can't be a pump-up video at all. It's just information for a doctor to have. And on the doctor's discretion and objective discretion, they decide which patient to use it on. Then there's the other funnel, which I would say within the content below that is a bit more granular information. So this includes case studies, patient reviews, things which are very comparative, very science-based medical information. So that, and we are taking the entire 1,200 endocrinologists and people who are interested in the diabetic medications through this journey of content when a new drug is launched. So this is some of the things that we are doing. And I will probably end with, the main thing is really about how we share the information. So obviously it can't just go in every place. It has to be through summits, which is another huge opportunity. And even when the summit is that if a doctor is recorded and that video is shared to the other healthcare professional, because generally the doctor is a very senior person, that has much more appeal, much more engagement compared to a nice video sent by a pharmaceutical company. That I think it just adds to the objective way, and that was a huge learning for myself. So I understood, okay, if you have a video of a doctor talking about the medication in his own or her own objective views, that is way better than a video of the medicine sent out by us.
Influencers.
Yeah, that's good influence marketing.
All right, so you've got in this room, and I'm just going to be bragging about our members now, but you've got the broadcasters, you've got Google, you've got Meta, you've got Samsung, you've got Optus, I'm going to forget someone on it now, but you've got everyone in the video space here, the technology companies that can help make the world a better space. If you could have something on your wish list of making video advertising even better, what's the one thing that you would ask the industry to move on? Who wants to jump in? Go on, Mark, be brave. I can see you want to ask for something.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how controversial I should be. No, I think it's easy to sell an impression and buy an impression in context. Full stop there. I think it's very easy to cut, when budgets cut, an impression that you bought within context. So, as an insurer, aligning myself to a relevant context for home insurance or car insurance is super easy to sell and buy, makes sense. I can place a piece of video in that piece of content. But it also, if I get budget cuts next year or this year, it's also easy to cut that, right? I think if there's anything I'd ask, it'd be how do you get the video closer to the business objectives that we're trying to push, whether it's a traditional marketing funnel to drive the consideration, or whether it's the customer journey that I'm taking people on based on signal data, whether it's first party, zero party, own data from publishers. Like, how do you get interjected as opposed to the metrics that we've almost just been talking about, which is just standard video metrics, to be like, get closer to my metrics, which is I need to push people through the journey, whether it's long form, short form, in context, out of context. The customer is important for me because they've shown interest in the category and potentially one of my brands. So you wedge yourself in there, that's hard to decouple. So how do you get closer to the business objectives of any of the advertisers in the room, I think is probably what I'd say.
With whatever privacy changes that we're going to see.
With all the privacy changes that we're going to see. Yeah.
So easy, guys. Jade?
Yeah, I think I don't want to go back to the budget piece again, but it's my daily life. I think I'm always trying to balance non-working costs with working costs, and I think when we created, the Update Your Plate campaign, I think I ended up with 20 assets of video in the end to go across channel. Like, I'd love a bloody simple guide, like what is the 1 and 2 format that work on this channel and that works on that channel, that's really going to give me the reach and the ROI that I need. Like, I think we had to go through that learning journey ourselves, and then once we understood what worked, we can then just use now the 4 assets that we know work really well for us in our follow-up campaigns, or if I want to choose to do a digital-only video campaign. Like, I think for me that was quite difficult, and I guess I didn't really get a lot of help or advice from the media agency in that piece. It was just like, here's a huge suite, off you go, kind of create it, and that obviously then costs quite a bit and takes away from what I can invest in the work in media, which is where I'd much rather put the dollars.
Great challenge. Sarah?
I guess we have a screens first approach, so we love digital video. I guess with everything, and people do it so well, but continuing to think about that user journey, continuing to think about sort of ad loading, and thinking about the consumer would be something from my end.
We might have a solution for you with that one very shortly.
So one of the issues that we have is, so we have summits, the likes of these, and we have a senior doctor presenting information, and these are recorded videos that are sent out. So you can imagine how hard it is to get a summit done or a video, a doctor across the cameras talking about a presentation, especially when there's a new paper that is released. And working in the pharmaceutical industry, I realize there are people out there who get extremely excited when there's a new medical paper that comes out. I'm talking about that, it's the talk of the town. It's like, I was very surprised seeing that kind of, anyways, not too much details there. However, the issue that we have is having a doctor come out and speaking to the person in their own objective way. Something that I was thinking of is if we can work in an AI with the same doctor talking, and recreate the entire video with the text, etc., and get the final approval from the medical professional that this is how you're going to look like, and this is how the video we're going to send out to everyone else. That will really cut time, cut cost, and everything. At the end, the doctor just have to give a tick, yeah, I'm fine for this information to be shared. So an AI of the same doctor giving a presentation and getting approved from the doctor, that will be amazing. So any AI people out there that can help me out. And secondly, which I think is a complex one, is the attribution. Someone can how can we link this video, this email, this rep who went to speak to the doctor at this summit directly to what the product is and how the sales of that product is going. So that attribution link will be an amazing solution for us. Yeah, awesome. Not only for us, and that's entire pharmaceutical companies, by the way.
Fantastic. We've probably got time for one question. Is there anything on Slido?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions around, I guess, creativity and the importance of it in your strategies. One of the main ones is around how you utilise that first-party data in terms of informing any of your video strategies or storytelling, that type of thing. So how much does that actually affect what you do in your the creative space?
And a big round of applause for Jen, who runs our video council. Yay! So, yeah, data informing creative as well as strategy. Did Mark, you're nodding?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. We're a newly formed customer experience and marketing division, where we've got level 2 complaints. That is complaints that of people that have probably had a peril go through their house, and we've probably said we're not going to pay, to be totally transparent. So it's a really bad customer experience. we get that insight in the marketing team, and we try to, really get into the nuance of why that has happened and how we can potentially turn it into some above the line comms, etc. So insights, first party data insights from our customer complaints team absolutely drives what we do in marketing. That's the first thing. The second thing is we've got a whole customer experience team that looks at the nuances, like I was mentioning about LGAs and growth corridors, migration from specific areas of the world and things like that. So when Mirvac is creating 100 homes and releasing a new land and home package like that, that's another piece of insight that we can take and help develop our specific comms that we take to market. The Indian community, there's a lot of migrants coming from India at the moment. We've got big India coming through in cricket as well, and we're the major partner of men's Test cricket. That for us, the Indian community, they don't have insurance in India, so there is a big comprehension at a category level that we need to do for them to talk to them about what is Australia's climate doing. The perils that are and major climate changes are becoming more intense and more frequent in Australia because of global warming, etc. So for us, consumer insights and customer insights and complaint insights absolutely almost dictate the creative output that we need to take to market to make sure that we're building a more resilient and safer Australia across all the communities that we serve. So, great question, whoever wrote that. So.
I'll answer it in a TA way, which is obviously slightly different, which is why we're here. We talk about logic and magic at TA, so we definitely, we have these foundations of what we call our destination marketing principles based on marketing science, but we really do sort of take that logic really important, not just a sort of a checkbox, because you need the magic. So examples of data that sort of helps us with our storytelling is, what are the drivers of tourism choice? What are our brand codes and makes us unmistakably Australian? Hence why we have a kangaroo, which is our #1 brand code, for example, Ruby the Roo, in our things. You'll probably always see the Sydney Opera House or one of our other codes at the beginning of our creative. And we know what those drivers are by market. So we, obviously nuance our video approach and what we're saying by each of those markets. So we definitely use data to inform it, but obviously you need the magic as well. So.
Fantastic. Can everyone thank these wonderful new friends?